Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on staying safe at work. My name is Ruchika Singh, and I'm the project coordinator at Costi Immigrant Services, and I will be your presenter for this webinar. Thank you for taking the time out and being here with us today. Some of the things which we will be looking at during this webinar are workplace rights and responsibilities, safety at work, workplace harassment, and also finding help. Rights and workplace safety. In Ontario, workers are protected by the Employment Standards Act, which is ESA, and Occupational Health and Safety Act, which is OHSA. The ESA sets rules about hours, minimum pay, and behavior in the workplace. The OHSA protects the health and safety of workers in the workplace. Did you know that young workers are more likely to be injured at work? It's because they are inexperienced. Young workers are not as confident or comfortable asking questions or objecting to unsafe conditions. Young workers also tend to take more risks and are more likely to be distracted. Did you also know that people who are new to Canada are more likely to be exploited by their employers? It's because they are new to the country and they may not know the rights or feel comfortable speaking out if the employers break the rules. Knowing your rights. The Ontario Ministry of Labour website outlines the rights of workers in Ontario. These are some of your basic rights. You must be paid on a regular payday and receive a wage statement outlining your hours, your pay, and your deductions. In general, a workday is 8 hours. A work week is limited to 48 hours. Some jobs are structured a little differently though, depending on the nature of the work. And you can work more hours if you agree to do so in writing. But employers cannot require workers to work longer, even with extra pay. Employers must allow workers a certain number of hours off between shifts. You are also entitled to breaks, including a 30-minute meal break if your shift is longer than 5 hours. Usually, if you work more than 44 hours a week, you are entitled to overtime pay, which is at least 1.5 times your regular wage. Most jobs pay at least the minimum wage, which is currently $14.25 per hour in Ontario. Some jobs pay less because workers can earn additional pay through tips or commissions. Waiting tables in a restaurant, for example, has a lower minimum wage. Workers in Ontario are also entitled to paid vacation at the end of every 12 months, and the paid vacation is at least 2 weeks. In jobs where paid vacation time is impractical, such as short-term or shift work, this vacation time is replaced with vacation pay, which is 4% of your regular wage at every pay period. There are also 9 public holidays in Ontario every year. While most workers take these days off, those who work in the service industry may choose to work. Employers must pay workers extra, the holiday pay, on these public holidays, and some employers will pay even more to encourage their employees to volunteer for their shift. If you have held a job for more than 3 months, your employer must give you 1 week's notice before terminating your employment or firing you in unfortunate situations. If you have worked for more than 1 year, notice must be given of at least 2 weeks. If a temp agency assignment ends earlier than scheduled, you must get at least 1 week's notice. If they ask you to stop working immediately, they must pay you for the length of the notice period. Staying safe at work. Employers must provide training and ensure conditions are safe. Workers have an obligation to work safely by using equipment properly and following all the rules. Safety in the workplace is very important. Workers in Ontario have the right to refuse work if it is unsafe. The Ontario Ministry of Labour has many tips for staying safe at work. Be sure to learn safety rules and procedures, including what to do in an emergency. If your job requires hairnets, gloves, aprons, safety glasses, or earplugs, use them properly. And if you don't know the safety rules, do ask your supervisor. There are no dumb questions, and never assume you can do something without instruction, guidance, or supervision. If you are hurt, no matter how minor, always report injuries to your supervisor or employer. Tell them what you're doing at work. Let them know if you think something's wrong. Harassment in the workplace. Workplace harassment happens when a person does something or says to mean something inappropriate to the other person. Harassment usually describes repeated behaviors, but a single incident can also be harassment. Workplace harassment also includes sexual harassment. The OHSA defines workplace harassment as engaging in a course of vexatious comment or conduct against a worker in a workplace that is known or ought reasonably to be known to be unwelcome. The definition of workplace harassment includes workplace sexual harassment. The definition of workplace harassment is broad enough to include all types of harassment under the Ontario Human Rights Code, including sexual harassment. In this Human Rights Code, in Section 4.4 of this guide, you can see a list of the prohibited grounds of harassment under the code. Workplace harassment also includes what is often called psychological harassment or personal harassment. The comments or conduct typically happen more than once. They could occur over a relatively short period of time, for example, during the course of one day, or over a longer period of time, which could be weeks, months, or even years. However, there may be situations where the conduct happens only once. For example, a single instance of an unwelcome sexual solicitation or advance from a supervisor or a manager could constitute workplace sexual harassment. You can get more information by going through the law on workplace violence and harassment. What is workplace harassment? As mentioned before, workplace harassment can involve unwelcome words or actions that are known or it should be known to be offensive, embarrassing, humiliating, or demeaning to a worker or a group of workers in a workplace. It can also include behaviors that intimidate, isolates, or even discriminates against the individuals. Some examples of harassments may include offensive comments or jokes, bullying or aggressive behavior, spreading rumors or gossip or ganging up to make fun of a particular coworker, inappropriate staring, pestering someone to go out with you, or commenting on another's appearance or sexual attractiveness, making fun of someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. What's not workplace harassment? Let's even look at that. A reasonable action taken by an employer or supervisor relating to management and direction of workers or workplace. Reasonable management actions would be a part of managers or supervisors' normal role work function and could include changes in work assignments, scheduling, job assessment, and evaluation, also including workplace inspections, implementation of health and safety measures, and disciplinary actions. If these actions are not exercised reasonably and fairly, they may constitute workplace harassment. For example, if a worker was not scheduled for shifts solely because of his or her sexual orientation, this would likely be workplace harassment. Differences of opinion or minor disagreements between coworkers would also not generally be considered as workplace harassment. Remember, when a supervisor or manager takes an action or disciplines a worker within the rules, it's not regarded as harassment. Sexual harassment. The OHSA defines workplace sexual harassment as engaging in a course of vexatious comments or conduct against a coworker in a workplace because of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expressions, where the course of the comment or conduct is known or ought reasonably to be known to be unwelcome or making a sexual solicitation, or advance, where the person making it is in a position to confer, grant, or deny a benefit or advancement to the worker, and the person knows or ought unreasonably to know the solicitation or advance is unwelcome. This definition of workplace sexual harassment reflects the prohibitions on sexual harassment and sexual solicitation found in the Ontario Human Rights Code. As mentioned in section 1.5 of this guide, the comments or conduct typically happen more than once. Although a single unwelcome solicitation or advance from a manager, supervisor, or another person who has the power to reward or punish the worker may constitute workplace sexual harassment. Multiple events can occur over a relatively short period of time or a longer period of time. Workplace sexual harassment can involve unwelcome words or actions associated with sex, sexual orientation, or gender which are offensive, embarrassing, and humiliating. Workplace sexual harassment may include asking questions, talking or writing about sexual activities, rough or vulgar humor or language related to sexuality, sexual orientation, or gender. Displaying or circulating pornography, sexual images, or offensive sexual jokes in print or electronic forms. Leering or inappropriate stirring is also a form of sexual harassment. Invading someone's personal space, unnecessarily physical contact, including inappropriate touching, demanding hugs, dates, or sexual favors, making gender-related comments about someone's physical characteristics, mannerisms, or conformity to sex role or stereotypes, verbally abusing, threatening, or taunting someone based on gender or sexual orientation, threatening to penalize or otherwise punish a worker if they refuse a sexual advance. These are some of the examples of sexual harassments. Harassment in the workplace. If you are being harassed at work, you should tell your supervisor, manager, or your human resource representative immediately. Be sure to keep a record of the harassment. Save all emails, texts, or other messages. Take notes about the harassment. Write down what happens and when, and write down the names of the people doing it and all the witnesses. You cannot be disciplined for reporting harassment, and your employer must investigate the incident. The Ontario Ministry of Labour provides many resources and information about what you should do if you experience harassment at work. Your workplace should have a harassment policy and provide information on what to do. On this slide, you will find the information about the labor ministry here, which is labor.government.on.ca. Where to find help? When it comes to safety, whether it's physical safety, security, health, or work related, the most important thing to remember is there is help out there. Remember that if you or someone else is in immediate danger, please call 911. This is for emergencies, and we'll talk about this a little later. Always trust your instincts. If something seems wrong, if something feels wrong, it probably is. We've already talked about the many resources available to you, but you must choose to reach out and ask for help. Who can help? For example, for an international student, the safety and security offices on campus, you can visit one of those offices and speak to the professors or the advisors there. And if you live on campus, you can talk to someone on the residence live staff. Your school may also have a mentoring program or peer counseling services. And your campus health centers has doctors, nurses, and counselors that can also help. Don't worry about finding the right person. Even if one of these people in your campus community can't help you with your specific concern, they can help you find the right person. Safe spaces were first introduced to help marginalized individuals, such as members of the LGBTQ community. But today, safe spaces are for everyone who need assistance or acceptance. Many places in organizations may be identified as safe spaces or safe zones. And in these zones, you will find signs. Um, and you can go there and feel safe. A safe space is a space where everyone should be free of discrimination or harassment. An organization or campus may call it something else, and usually these are spaces where any type of discrimination is not tolerated. It could be in the form of a hate speech or even violence. In an emergency, call 911. You can make a 911 phone call from any phone. You do not need a phone plan or a credit on your cell phone to call 911. You can also use payphones without paying. Call 911 from a safe space. For example, if there is a fire exit in the building first, then call 911. When you call 911, be sure to speak slowly and clearly. The operator will ask you if you need police, fire, or ambulance, and then ask for more details about the emergency. Follow instructions from the dispatcher and do not hang up until they tell you to. If you call 911 by mistake, do not hang up. Wait for the dispatcher to answer and then explain that you are okay and the call was unintended. 911 must follow up on all calls in case someone is in danger and couldn't complete the calls. So be sure to explain the error before hanging up. You should call 911 only in real emergencies. In a non-emergency situation, you can contact your local police service by using their non-emergency phone number. Non-emergency include reporting a crime after it has happened and you are safe. You can also call the police to report suspicious activity in your community. Another example of non-emergency are noise complaints. Here are some examples. If you were assaulted last night at a bar or at a party and the next morning you decide you want to report the crime to the police, you could call the non-emergency number. Once the immediate danger is over, you can report the events to the police using the non-emergency number. If your bicycle has been stolen, you could call the non-emergency phone number. If you receive a threatening message online, you could call the non-emergency phone number to make a report. This number is often printed on the sides of police car, on the police website, or on the front page of your local phone directory. You should always report incidents, behaviors, concerns, or any suspicions which you have to campus safety and security. Even non-emergency situations should be reported to these authorities. They need to keep records of all these injuries or any minor incidents which have occurred. You can also seek help from your school safety or security office if something has happened to you off campus. And this is applicable to all newcomers, not only international students. You can also anonymously report information to law enforcement by calling Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS, which is 8477. People often call Crime Stoppers if they know something about any criminal activity and don't feel comfortable reporting it to the police. Crime Stoppers is completely anonymous and you're given an ID number for your report. You never give your name. You can also visit their website, which is ontariocrimestoppers.ca. There are many organizations in Ontario with helpline and websites. So Good to Talk is one of them, and Ontario Mental Health Helpline is also one of them. The Assaulted Woman Helpline is also one of the helplines, and the phone number is 1-866-863-0511. The Drug and Alcohol Helpline, 1-800-565-8603. AIDS and Sexual Help Info Line, 1-800-668-2437. This webinar was brought to you by the Ontario O2O program, which is the Orientation to Ontario program. It is a bilingual program which is funded by the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada and the Government of Ontario. This program has been designed to expedite and facilitate the settlement of newcomers to Ontario and help them make better informed choices. Our email address and our phone number is given on this website. Costi Immigrant Services is a community-based multicultural agency specifically focused on providing services to all newcomers who are settling in the Greater Toronto Area. Costi provides educational, social, and employment services to help newcomers become self-sufficient and settled in their new community. Costi manages the Orientation to Ontario project, which has brought you this webinar today. Thank you, everyone, and for being here and listening to this webinar. I hope you have gained some useful information about staying safe at work.